Today is Monday, February 28th. We'll tell you where the war in Ukraine stands now. Russia's troops are advancing, Russia's leader has an ominous warning, and several other countries are pledging new support for Ukraine. Also, a top Ukrainian official reached out to Elon Musk with a request, and it worked. Plus, a new Supreme Court nominee who could represent a couple of firsts for the United States. New mask guidelines mean fewer mandates. And a preview of the Oscars, who won the top prizes at last night's SAG Awards. Welcome to The Newsworthy. All the day's news in around 10 minutes. Fast, fair, fun, and on the go. I'm Erica Mandy. Thanks so much for being here. You ready? Let's do this. Well, gunfire and explosions are still going off in Ukraine as Russian troops try to take over the country. Russia has launched hundreds of missiles in Ukraine since the invasion began, and street fighting has been reported in several cities all around Ukraine. Russia has also damaged several airfields, fuel facilities, homes, hospitals, and schools, killing hundreds of civilians. And it started to cut off port access, which could be a huge blow to Ukraine's economy. Still, as of early this morning, the Russians do not control any of Ukraine's major population centers, meaning even though Ukraine is outnumbered and outgunned, it's putting up a strong fight. That's not just Ukraine's military defending the country either. Ukraine has brigades of volunteer fighters, including volunteers from other countries who want to help. Ukraine's government is giving them assault weapons and asking other people to make Molotov cocktails at home. Ukraine also says all men between the ages of 18 and 60 can no longer leave the country since they might need to be drafted. And there's likely a lot of fighting still ahead. Beyond that, Russia's President Putin is also putting his nuclear forces on high alert. So nuclear weapons will be ready to launch at short notice. Putin says they could be needed since the West is making so-called aggressive statements. But of course, American officials say that's just another example of Russia making up threats that do not exist to justify its own actions. And the Pentagon says it is confident it can protect the U.S. and its allies. Negotiators from both Ukraine and Russia are meeting today for peace talks in Belarus. These will be the first talks since the invasion started last week. It's not clear exactly what the meeting might accomplish, especially since one of Russia's main objectives is to force Ukraine's current government out of power. But as one Ukrainian official put it, we'll, quote, listen to what Russia wants to say. Separately, the United Nations is holding a rare emergency session of its General Assembly today to vote on a resolution calling for peace. Also of note, for the very first time, the NATO response force was activated. It includes service members from several countries who specialize in land, air, sea, and special operations forces. This still does not mean any U.S. or NATO troops will go into Ukraine or Russia, but the idea is the force is ready to defend NATO countries if it is needed. Well, Russia might have Belarus on its side, but Ukraine is getting a lot more support from several of its Western allies. For starters, the U.S. is sending Ukraine another $350 million worth of weapons. This is the third big weapon shipment from the U.S. to Ukraine. On top of that, Belgium promised 2,000 machine guns and 3,800 tons of fuel. France is sending defensive military equipment, and even Germany, that has a long-standing policy of not sending weapons to war zones, changed its tune. It's sending hundreds of rocket-propelled grenades and 1,000 anti-tank weapons to Ukraine. Also, over the weekend, the European Union announced steps to help. It's sending weapons and other equipment to a country under attack for the first time in EU history. The EU is also banning some pro-Russia media outlets and closing its airspace to Russian airlines. Then there's even more new sanctions against Russia, including what could be the most crippling financial penalties yet. The U.S. and its allies have now decided to block certain Russian banks from being able to access the SWIFT international payment system. To put it simply, SWIFT makes cross-border payments possible, transferring trillions of dollars a year. It's now the main system for financing international trade. And the idea of keeping Russia out of it is unprecedented. Russia is the world's 11th largest economy, so it will impact Russia's export of everything from oil and metals to grains, at least when it comes to the U.S. and Europe, which means it'll likely have an impact on other economies as well. Exports to Asia will likely continue. But Western nations did not stop there. The U.S., EU, and UK also sanctioned Russia's president, foreign minister, and other members of Russia's Security Council directly. And that's significant since it's extremely rare for the U.S. to sanction a sitting world leader. In the past, Russia has said it would consider that kind of sanction the end of its relationship with the U.S. To be continued. President Biden held up his promise to nominate the first Black woman for the U.S. Supreme Court. If she's confirmed in the Senate, Ketanji Brown Jackson would also be the first former public defender to sit on the bench. But she has a pretty elite legal background beyond that, too. Jackson went to Harvard for her undergraduate and law school degrees. She served on the U.S. Sentencing Commission, and she eventually became a federal judge. Way back when, she also was a law clerk for retiring Justice Stephen Breyer, the man whose seat she could be taking. She still has to survive a Senate confirmation, though. Democrats have been praising Biden's choice, saying Jackson has a record of even-handedness and impressive legal credentials. But some Republicans say she's the choice of what they call the radical left. She will need 51 votes in the Senate to officially get the job on the Supreme Court. Confirmation hearings could start by the middle of next month, and senators are hoping to wrap them up by April 8th when they leave for their spring recess. More news is coming up, but first let's take a quick break to thank our sponsor. My newest pair of Rothy's shoes is the Point in Black, and they're such a staple that it's now clear to me why they are one of Rothy's best-selling shoes. In fact, People magazine named the Point the best flat for their first ever style awards in 2021. But Rothy's also makes super comfortable sneakers, loafers, ankle boots, and more. I have 3 pairs of Rothy's shoes now, and I've never had to break any of them in. I wear them right out of the box with no problems. And really, my oldest pair looks the same as my newest. They're that high quality and durable. Plus, I love that everything, yes, everything Rothy's makes is better for the planet. They've repurposed millions of water bottles into their signature thread that goes into every single one of their products. So every time I buy, I can feel really good about what I'm getting for myself and the company where I'm spending my money. So step up your shoes and accessories this spring and get ready to be asked, are those Rothy's? Plus, get $20 off your first purchase at rothys.com/newsworthy. That's ROTHYS, rothys.com/newsworthy. As expected, the CDC decided to loosen its advice about masks. Instead of focusing just on test results, the new guidance looks more at what's happening at hospitals. Right now, the CDC's risk map puts more than 70% of the American population in places where hospitals are not seriously threatened of being overwhelmed. So the federal agency says healthy people in those areas can stop wearing masks even indoors and even in schools. And these recommendations do not change the mandate that says people have to wear masks on public transportation, but they have inspired more local officials to lift their requirements. For example, New York City schools are set to drop their mask mandate, and New Yorkers will no longer have to show proof they've been vaccinated at indoor venues. Things are even changing in Congress. Lawmakers will no longer be forced to wear masks at President Biden's State of the Union address this week. But keep in mind, private businesses can make their own rules. American big tech companies are in a standoff with Russia. Facebook, Twitter, Google, and Google-owned YouTube are cracking down on the country's ads because of what's happening in Ukraine. They don't want Russia controlling the narrative since it's known to spread disinformation. Facebook's parent company Meta said it will not run ads from Russian state media. Twitter is pausing ads too, though just in Ukraine and Russia. Meanwhile, YouTube made its own move by blocking the Russian state-owned media outlet RT and other Russian channels from making money off of ads. But over the weekend, Russia started restricting Twitter and Facebook for some people there anyway. A top Ukrainian official tweeted a request to billionaire Elon Musk, and Musk made it happen just 10 hours later. Ukraine's vice prime minister sent the SpaceX founder a public plea to help bring the internet back to parts of Ukraine that had lost power in the recent attacks. Musk tweeted back a short time later saying it's done, that SpaceX Starlink internet service is now active there and more terminals are en route. But he didn't give any other details about how the Starlink terminals would actually get to Ukraine, and those are needed to use the service. Remember, the Starlink system is SpaceX's plan to send thousands of satellites into orbit to bring internet service to even the most remote areas around the world. Award show season is in full swing, and the SAG Awards kicked it off with a few firsts last night. Like Netflix's most popular series of all time, Squid Game became the first non-English language series and the first Korean title to win a SAG Award, and it actually won 3. Plus, Coda actor Troy Kotsur became the first deaf man to win a SAG Award by winning the Outstanding Performance in a Supporting Role. And Ariana DeBose is now the first Latina actress to ever get a SAG Film honor. In some other big moments, Jessica Chastain won Best Actress for The Eyes of Tammy Faye, and Will Smith won Best Actor for King Richard. It must have been a busy weekend for Smith. He also took the Top Actor award for the same film the night before at the NAACP Image Awards. There, Jennifer Hudson won Best Actress for her role in Respect. Hudson also scooped the Marquee Entertainer of the Year, and Prince Harry and Meghan Markle were awarded the President's Award for their activism. Netflix's Western movie, The Harder They Fall, won big, getting the Best Film Award along with 4 others. An Olympic gold medalist landed a move never seen before in collegiate gymnastics. Suni Lee, who goes to Auburn, pulled out a skill on the uneven bars called the Nabieva. It's a skill so hard it's never been done in NCAA's history. It has the most difficult rating there is in gymnastics. It involves laying out over the high bar, circling around it, and grabbing hold of it again. Not only did Suni Lee nail that move, but she also scored a perfect 10 in a completely different event, the beam. Her team won Friday's meet with its best ever team score. And that's it for your main news today. So now it's time for Money Monday, when we talk about one interesting money-related news story. But first, a quick message from our sponsor. Why do flowers bloom? Why does it get warmer outside? Spring brings a lot of new curiosities and a chance for kids to connect with the world around them. KiwiCo embraces children's natural curiosity with their monthly science and art projects. I love that KiwiCo focuses on different STEAM topics. So that means science, technology, engineering, art, and mathematics. And it can help spark a lifelong love of learning in kids. If you're at all worried your child might be too young or too old for these, don't be. KiwiCo has a subscription line for kids of all ages, ranging from infants and preschoolers all the way to teens. Of course, grown-ups are welcome to join in on the fun as well, because remember, you are not having to actually spend any of the time researching, shopping, buying, or planning these hands-on projects. So you can just sit back and enjoy them alongside your child when they are delivered to your door every month. I really appreciate that part of it, along with the high-quality materials they use. So step into spring and celebrate the season of discovery with a KiwiCo subscription. Get 30% off your first month plus free shipping on any crate line with the code newsworthy at kiwico.com. That's 30% off your first month at KIWICO, kiwico.com with the promo code newsworthy. Okay, now back to Money Monday. American celebrities are sending their support and money to Ukraine. Reality star and business owner Bethany Frankel is sending $10 million in aid to Ukrainians through her disaster relief initiative called Be Strong. And A-list couple Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively pledged to match donations to support Ukrainian refugees, dollar for dollar, up to $1 million. If you want to donate and have them match it, we've got a link in our show notes. And speaking of donations, Ukraine's government tweeted out its crypto wallet on Saturday. And so far, research from Elliptic says it's gotten more than $12 million in cryptocurrency donations and nearly $19 million total to help fight Russia. All right, thank you so much for listening today and every day. We'll be back with much more news to know tomorrow. For now, have a great day.